Cypress, Texas, seemed like any other quiet suburb where teenagers could spend their weekends hanging out, playing video games and staying up late. But on the night of March 20th, 2021, what was supposed to be a normal sleepover took a tragic and horrifying turn. Corey Thompson, just 17 years old, was spending the night at his friend James Sotelo's house. The two had known each other for years, their bond forged through shared childhood memories and late-night talks. That night, as the clock struck 3 a.m., Corey decided to call it a night, unaware of the darkness that was about to descend. As Corey lay down to rest, James, then 18, was wide awake, his thoughts spiraling into something sinister. Out of nowhere, James grabbed a 9mm semi-automatic handgun and without warning began firing at his friend. In the chaos that ensued, 13 shots rang out, piercing the quiet night. 11 of those bullets found their mark, hitting Corey repeatedly, mostly in the back. The shots didn't just endanger Corey. One bullet tore through a wall, striking James's own brother in the face as he slept in another room. Miraculously, the brother survived, but the horror of what had transpired left an indelible mark on the family. When authorities arrived, the scene was nothing short of a nightmare. Corey was found lifeless, his body riddled with bullets, while James's brother was rushed to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. As investigators pieced together the tragic events of that night, one question loomed large. What could drive a young man to commit such a senseless act of violence against his own friend? As the investigation unfolded, James Sotelo's explanation for the brutal killing left everyone stunned. According to James, the attack was triggered by an alleged physical assault from Corey while he was asleep. But the evidence painted a far different picture, one that was chilling in its implications. Corey's mother, devastated by the loss of her son, rejected James's claims outright. "Of course that's not true," she said, her voice trembling with grief and anger. The autopsy confirmed her worst fears. Every single bullet wound was in Corey's back. 11 shots, fired at close range, while Corey had no chance to defend himself. This was not an act of self-defense. It was a cold-blooded execution. The court proceedings were swift and intense. Prosecutors, led by Assistant District Attorney Kyle Tucker, pushed for a 50-year sentence, emphasizing the calculated nature of the crime. According to the defendant, he wasn't intoxicated or under the influence of any drugs, Tucker stated. That makes deliberately pulling the trigger 13 times that much worse. The defense offered little in the way of justification. James, who had been out on bond for assault at the time of the murder, seemed to lack any remorse. His expression remained emotionless as the details of that night were recounted in court. In the end, the jury found James guilty of murder. The judge sentenced him to 40 years in prison with an additional 2 years for deadly conduct after the stray bullet struck his brother. James must serve at least half of his sentence before he can even be considered for parole. As the gavel fell, marking the end of the trial, the weight of the tragedy hung heavy in the air. A senseless act of violence had torn apart two families, leaving behind only grief and unanswered questions. Sometimes, the ones you trust the most are the ones you should fear. Don't miss the next chilling story. Subscribe for more true crime tales.